Well, after that wonderful entrance, my name's Cleo Harris. I'm a fisheries biologist for the Lake Erie Management Unit for Michigan DNR. All right. So I'm going to talk with you today about a couple of projects going on in the Detroit River. The Detroit River is a considered area of concern, and these projects are going to be targeted towards the fisheries and wildlife beneficial use impairment. Which way do I gotta go? Let's try them all. There we go. So like a lot of these projects, this is a collaborative effort. Both islands are actually owned by the Michigan DNR, so they're public property. And we get a lot of help and benefit from the Friends of the Detroit River, and they're the funding recipients. This money is GLRI funds that's coming through NOAA, and we worked a lot with Michigan DEQ and the Army Corps to get the permits for these projects, and ECT is the engineering firm that's conducting the work and kind of leading the on-the-ground work with Cornetto Company as well. So both islands are located in the lower portion of the Detroit River around Groseal. Stony Island is there with on the east side of Groseal, and Celeron is one of the lowest islands in the river before you get into Lake Erie. Like right there, if you're not familiar with the Detroit River. So Stony Island is about a 52-acre island, and this is an aerial image from 2013, and it's right next to the the shipping traffic. You can see a barge coming down the river there. So flow is coming down from the top of the picture, flow of the river from the top of the picture down to the bottom, and you can kind of see on these edges out here where there historically used to be some shoal areas that protected the island a little bit, and on this kind of southwest end, it was protecting it from the wave energy coming up from the lake, and then the shoals up here on the upstream or the north end is kind of protecting the island from the river influence, river currents coming down, and that created a nice coastal wetland setting with some good shallow water habitat. So those shoals have actually kind of eroded over time, and these projects are to reestablish those shoals and create some new shoal areas in other locations. And so for Stony Island, they're looking at creating protecting 600 linear feet of shoal around the island, and then this is for not just the fisheries project. This is also actually our wildlife division maintains those islands, so there's a lot of wildlife effort that's going into these projects as well. I'm only going to be talking more about the fish stuff because that's what we're here for, but there are, one of the focuses was creating some common tern habitat as well, 3,000 linear feet of shoal restoration, and those shoals are going to be protecting 50 acres of backwater habitat around the island. And inside of those shoals, they're also going to put 2 acres of deep water habitat. And like I said, there's a lot of different species that are targeted here, with snakes, creating some hibernacula, some nesting areas for turtles. There's a lot of log structures that are being put in the shallow water habitat areas for fish habitat, as well as for some of the turtle basking areas and things like that. So in total, about 90 structures are going to be going in, and it's a pretty hefty cost, $7.5 million for this project. And Stony Island was started in 2016. We're actually going to be finishing that up this spring, and once we finish up Stony Island, we're going to be moving over to Celeron Island, which I'll get to in a little bit. So most of the information, most of the pictures and stuff today are going to be about Stony Island because that's where the work's been ongoing. But this is linked to our fish community goals and objectives of protecting and restoring nearshore habitat as well as fish habitat around the island. So the main goals are to restore coastal wetland habitat, provide some habitat diversity inside that kind of backwater area, and protect the island from erosion. Mainly wind erosion is the main focus, and also maintain and enhance some recreational use. So the engineering specs for Stony Island, just so you can kind of get a broad picture of how this is going to look. Up here on the north side of the island, again, the river's flowing from the top of the picture down to the bottom towards Lake Erie. Creating some shoal areas here that are connected to some existing shoals that are still there, and that's going to protect the island from currents and create some good backwater habitat. And this is where the common turn area is really going to be located. And then this southwestern portion that kind of hooks around a little bit, that's more for the wind wave energy that's coming at the island from Lake Erie, and that's where a lot of that backwater habitat is going to be created. And these two circles are kind of where the deeper water habitat is going to be created too. It's just a little bit deeper pockets. It's not, it's shallow water habitat ultimately. But there's lots of these black checks that you can see are some of the log structures, and they're just kind of intermittently placed all around those backwater areas. So we give you an idea of how this is looking. This is some of the work that is going on. The picture on the left is kind of shows where you have this coastal wetland area, and it's going to be protected by the shoal. The scope on how big these shoals are really isn't that great yet, but you can kind of see it here in this picture on the right with these really large excavators. And so these some pretty large piles of rock. In total, it's about 40,000 tons of rock being put around Stony Island. So it's quite, that's where a lot of that cost is coming in, and they have to barge it all over. So this kind of gives it another perspective. You see the excavator driving right down the shoal, and you can see it's it goes quite a ways underneath the water as well. Then is the longer shoal creations on the southwest side, creating this big backwater area where we have a fair amount of submerged aquatic vegetation as well, and this is going to actually allow that vegetation to grab hold a little bit more because the wave energy won't be crashing in there as readily. So some good quality habitat for nursery areas, and they've actually seen quite a few fish behind these shoals and utilizing the log structures and things like that already as well. So to kind of conceptually give you an idea what it looks like, to the left on this bottom picture, that's the really hard armoring that's going to be protecting, and then a soft terrestrial habitat up top, going down toward, this will be towards Stony Island on the right, where we have the log structures put in. And so they have designed this with the idea of trying to make sure to take into account how the water levels will fluctuate over time as well. So you have the really large rock out here with some slabs, creating some habitat for things like mud puppies and stuff like that. And then, like I said, the logs and stuff on the other side. And to show you that, and here, this is on that southwest side of Stony Island. So you can see they did a lot of like dogwood switch planting and things like that. And you have logs going into the water here. So Stony Island's over here to the right, and then that's the larger rock, like 24 to 36 inch rock on that outer side. So it's really armored. So Celeron Island, a lot of the same stuff's going to happen. There is one difference between the two islands. Celeron's a little bit bigger than Stony. It's about 68 acres, but the project is pretty much the same, with a lot of 3,000 feet of shoreline being protected, 2,800 feet of shoal being created, and that's actually going to be protecting about 67 acres of backwater habitat, and not putting as much deep water pockets in there, just 1 acre, one single pocket. And the difference is this 6-acre nesting barrier beach, and I'll show it in another picture. But that's kind of going to be protecting the north side of the island, and provide some different habitat for birds and turtles and things like that as well, while protecting the north side. They haven't started this one. It's going to start as soon as they finish up on Stony Island, and it comes with an even bigger bill of $9.4 million. So it's a lot of rock, and it's a lot of work that they have to do, everything by barge to get out there. The same goals as for this project, the same goals that we had for Stony Island. So Celeron, the engineering schematic. So this on the north side in this box, this is the barrier beach, and The gray areas are kind of the terrestrial portions of Celeron Island, and there's this was historically all really thick emergent wetland. With the higher water levels and some of the flows coming into the island, it's eroded that area a little bit more, and so this barrier beach is intended to kind of deflect some of that energy coming at the island in that middle part and allow some of the emergent vegetation to come back a little bit, creating a little bit more coastal wetland areas behind that. And then for the shoals, they're all going to be off the southern portion, kind of facing down towards the Lake Erie end, and kind of U-ing around the island to protect that whole bottom end of the island from the wave energy coming out. And again, they'll have these green checks are those are some of the log structures and things like that that are going to be behind the shoal areas. So to zoom in on the shoal areas a little bit, they're kind of, they just space them out with sections in between, and so they have some different habitat types around there, but conceptually the same, with hard armoring on the outside and a little softer as it goes towards the island. And with that, try to save us some more time. I'll take any questions you have.